we don't really have like a great initiation in male culture in America these days. We used to have it, Native American tribes had it. The military kind of has it. I think, when a kid kills a deer in deer camp, then it's time to start treating him like a man. When my son and I go up to Canada for bear hunting, or he's out here helping me with the cabin now, it's more about passing on traditions and doing things that you love with people that you love. That's the heart of deer camp, and that's why it can happen in Atlanta at Lee Ellis's house, or it can happen in Canada, in Quebec, outside of a lake where no one speaks English, or it can happen at Johnny's cabin in PA. So for me, about deer, that's the constituent elements of deer camp.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Hachi. Welcome back to another episode of the Deer Camp podcast. This week's podcast is with a real good friend of mine, Bill Thompson of Spartan Forge. Man, I'll tell you what, we talk about his deer camp. We talk about a few things. Great conversation. Bill was gracious enough to give you guys, our listeners, a discount code to get yourself Spartan Forge. That is DeerCamp20. So go check it out. Get yourself your Spartan Forge app and go find them deer out in the woods. Also, this week we are doing a giveaway. We've partnered with our friends over at Latitude Outdoors to bring you the best single panel saddle out there as far as I'm concerned. We're going to be giving away a Lone Star saddle, set of ropes, and a dump pouch for one of you lucky fans of ours. Real easy, super easy on how to get registered for this, guys. Go follow Latitude Outdoors on YouTube and go follow the new Deer Camp podcast YouTube channel. Go follow both of those. Send me a DM either on Instagram or Facebook, however you want to do it. Tell me you did it, and we'll get you entered. We are going to run that through August 31st. So we'll be announcing that September 1st on the podcast who the winner is. So go do that. We'll be putting some more out on social media about that, but just wanted to throw that out there for you guys. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great day and enjoy this episode with Mr. Bill Thompson. All right, we are back. Another episode of the Deer Camp podcast. This week we have Mr. Bill Thompson of Spartan Forge. Bill, how you doing tonight, man?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. Well, I can complain, but nobody listens, so it doesn't do me any good. How's your summer going, my friend?
Good. Yeah, I'm up here in North Dakota. I'm originally from North Dakota. I'm up here working on kind of like my vacation spot, deer camp spot. So I've been up here for about a month.
Oh, wonderful, man. That's are you out in the middle of nowhere up there?
I mean, it depends on where you're from, on how you define middle of nowhere. I mean, it's 40 acres. That was originally part of a section that my grandfather had, and I'm about 5 miles from the nearest town. The nearest town's about 1,000 people.
Yeah, from where I'm at up in Traverse City here in northern Michigan. Yeah, that's they're middle of nowhere compared to where I'm at. So that's awesome. That's got some family heritage to it then.
Yeah. My grandfather had a cabin across the road on some land, and like I said, it was a whole section, so it was a mile by a mile. And my dad bought this from him in the early 80s. And then my sister bought it while I was young. And then I bought it from my sister.
Okay. That's awesome. Somewhere you cut your teeth, I'm assuming, hunting then?
What's that?
Is that where you cut your teeth hunting?
No, I mean, kind of. I really cut my teeth. Like when I talk about cutting, when you say cutting your teeth, it's kind of like learning. I learned hunting when I was stationed out in Maryland. Okay. I was hunting like mountain country, like Western Panhandle of Maryland. And like in North Dakota, like I wouldn't say it's easy, but if you own land and you can throw down a bag of corn, you can probably kill a deer.
Okay.
That is not the case in Western Maryland. So like when I got out there, like I really didn't know. I thought I knew hunting. I didn't know hunting at all. And then that's kind of where I went through my trial by fire. And that's how I would define cutting my teeth. So I kind of cut my teeth up there in like mountain country, similar to like where Johnny hunts in PA or those other Bo and those other guys, very similar land. And the first year I hunted out there, I'm not sure if I saw a deer within shooting range. And that was probably like 2011 or 2010.
Okay.
So I kind of relearned hunting from there, and it's a very different style. But it's a good style. I think it's one of the better styles. But yeah, that's kind of how it went for me.
Okay. What's your favorite kind of hunting to do? Are you a gun, bow, deer, turkey? What's your favorite kind of thing to do?
Whitetail bow.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of probably if 95% of my hunting is whitetail bow. So everything else is kind of just whatever. Like I've done everything pretty much. Done bear, I've done elk, I've done moose, I've done whitetail, I've done turkey, I've done pheasant, I've done pronghorn. The only thing I haven't done really is mule deer. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's whitetail bow all the way.
All right. Yeah, same here. I love whitetails. 80% bow, 20% gun, whatever. Any way I can go hunt them, I like to get out and get after them.
Yeah.
Let's talk bear, man, because you guys just had one heck of a camp for bear.
Yeah.
Well, not just, it was a little bit ago, but tell me about that, man.
Yeah, well, I was out in DC and my son and I used to do this every year. And for like since 2017 or so is when I started doing black bear hunting out in Canada, or maybe 2016. And I've killed some big bear out there. And then I had I was doing stuff with the Trump administration, and I got invited to a dinner. And there at the dinner was Georges St-Pierre, the MMA fighter. And he had never really hunted in any serious manner. And we got talking about hunting. And I told him I was going to go do a bear hunt up in Quebec. And it turned out to be like 4 hours from his house. So that weekend, I pretty much just hung out with him exclusively. We were like at these parties, we were kind of like sore thumbs. Like we weren't politicians. We weren't, I guess he's famous, but I certainly am not famous. And we hung out and just talked a lot and ended up going to a few parties together and just kind of started a friendship. And I just talked to him yesterday, actually. So we started talking about Quebec and bear camp, and he expressed some interest. And next thing I know, I told him, I was like, hey, man, we can do this where it's just you and me and my son. And sometimes I bring Gunner up. I don't know if you know Gunner Emberg, but some of those things I'll bring Gunner just because I don't like thinking about cooking, and I like Gunner's company, and he's way better at cooking than I am. And so I said, we can do that, or I can invite some other guys and we can raise some money for veterans. Like, you choose. So he he wanted to have a bunch of guys up in camp and like get together and do stuff. And he is a kind-hearted person. So he said, let's raise some money for some veterans and stuff. So we did that. And yeah, it was awesome. It was a great time. I mean, I think everyone except for myself killed. And the only reason I didn't kill is because 70% of my time was spent kind of guiding GSP. So I only hunted 3 days, or 2.5 days. And I didn't kill, but everybody else did. So it was a success.
Okay. Were you guys doing some fishing too while you were up there? Or
yeah, we fished mornings. Yeah,
okay.
We fished mornings, and then we would do bear in the afternoons.
Okay. That's something on my radar. I've been really interested in the whole fishing morning bear hunting thing, which is kind of a Canada tradition, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of what they're known for. Okay.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's one of those, I like it just because I take whitetail hunting super seriously. And when I'm in whitetail mode, it's pretty much all I'm thinking about. And I actually have a really hard time relaxing. That's not saying it's a good thing or it's a cool thing or anything like that. It's just I'm solely focused on whitetail. And I like bear camp because, you're being guided. It's really the only way to hunt up there is baiting, because it's so vast, and it's so thick. And so you can get up there, shoot your bow, hang out with buddies, fish in the morning, big dinner at lunch, big lunch, and then head out into the woods. And it's all the work's being done for you. So all you got to do, you're just the trigger man at that point. So I really enjoy it. And it's, basically the polar opposite timeline of the season. And so it kind of breaks it up and puts you in the hunting mode again too. So you get a feel for being in the woods again and all that stuff. So I love it. I'm going to probably do it every year.
All right. No, GSP, does he have the itch now? Did he get bit?
Yeah, I believe he's going to be coming out. We're doing a veterans hunt out here at this cabin in November. And I believe he'll be coming out for that. I'm going to go meet him in Austin. We got him a bow. We got him a Hoyt. And we're going to meet out at Archery Country. My buddy Tyler runs Archery Country out there. So we're going to meet out there. We're going to tune him in on that bow because we were doing it in camp, but we really didn't have time and it wasn't the proper place to do it. So we kind of got him started, but we're going to get him tuned in on that bow and get him shooting well. And then he'll be out here in November.
Okay. Well, that'll be awesome, man. I bet he's stoked about that. I bet you're stoked about that. That sounds like one heck of a good time.
Anytime you get to get anyone into hunting, famous person or not.
Yeah.
Especially somebody who's an adult and they've never really done it. And he's got the right personality and temperament for it. And he's a learning person. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, anytime, I'm Deer Camp Podcast. So I love the camp aspect, obviously. And so that, anytime you can get someone, that is into it and gets to camp is, something truly special, I believe.
Yeah.
So you got that in November. What else you got going on this fall?
I'll probably be doing something with my buddy Drew Carroll from Seek One, and maybe Lee Ellis. I'm not sure. I do their Domageddon with them every year, where we donate. We kill does over like a 1 week period, and we donate it to the homeless. I'll be doing some hunting in Virginia, some hunting in Pennsylvania every year, pretty much for I don't know how many years now, 7 or 8 years. I go up to PA around Halloween, and I usually stay there a week. So nothing like crazy on my radar right now, other than just kind of the hunts that I do every year, which is to say that, North Dakota. Usually how it goes is I'll hunt in Virginia from the opener, which I think there is the 15th of September. I'll hunt there until October, and then around the 30th, I'll head to November. I'll head to PA. Maybe sometimes it'll be a little bit later or so. And then I'll hunt there for a week. And then from there, we usually head to North Dakota. And then I'm out back out here in North Dakota and hunt kind of the prime rut out here. And then back to hunting in Virginia until January. Then in January, I do the Domageddon with the Seek One guys, and that's kind of my year.
Okay, that Domageddon thing. There's that's a pretty cool thing they got going there with doing that for the homeless. I mean, anytime someone can give back is, I think, a great thing.
Yeah,
obviously.
And it's not your typical deer camp vibe like we're all in houses in the city, but it kind of still has the flavor. But I think this is my 4th year or 5th year doing it. I can't remember. But like the first year I did it, there was like 12 of us or something, or 10 of us or something like that. And I think at the party we had last year, because they do a big, like everyone can get like a free ticket to a party we have on the last night. I think there was something like 250 people there or something like that.
Wow.
So, and I think last year they donated 130 or 150 doe and bucks, mostly doe. So, and also like the population there is insane. And so it's good for the deer as well. It's good for the deer woods as well. But all that money and meat goes to the homeless. So yeah, it's awesome to give back.
Okay. Yeah. So what's your version of deer camp? Like if you were to, like, how did you cut your teeth in the deer camp? Did you guys grow up with a deer camp or?
Yeah, I mean, not really. Like not compared to what I call deer camp now. What we were doing then really wasn't deer camp. It would just North Dakota was kind of like, and I love North Dakota. Don't get me wrong. I sound like I'm talking smack, but I'm not. It's really just like a 3-day event. It's the gun opener. It's usually 3rd week of November. There'll be some cut corn somewhere or something. You'll go out and hunt from like an ice fishing house. It'll be 10 above or 10 below. You'll kill a deer, and that's pretty much it. Or at least that's how it was for me growing up. I didn't really get into like true deer camp until actually I started, I think on my 7th or 8th year, going up to PA and hunting. And Johnny Stewart and I have become really good friends over the past, I don't even know now, 5 or 6 years. And that's deer camp to me. So like when we go up, or what I'm doing here with my cabin will be a deer camp. And we did it last year, where it's like you're going hard, having good meals, buddies, drinking beers, playing cards, watching movies, whenever you're not hunting. Like you're hunting sun up to sundown. It's like here in North Dakota, that might be the sun's not coming up till 7:45 a.m., 7:50. So, and then the sun's down by 5 or 5:30 p.m., 5:45 at the latest. So it's not like the grueling schedule that we run whenever I'm like rut hunting in PA, where it's like you need to be on stand by 5 a.m. and you're in stand till 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m. That's grueling. We still have a lot of fun, but it's grueling. And, out there, I'll go for 10 days straight at the same spot, 7, 10 days straight. I've always had success doing that. So that's more of like a grueling thing, but we still have beers at night. We still hang out, but you're going to bed by midnight. You're up by 4 or 5, and you're getting out there. Whereas like here, you can sleep a little more, have more fun. And then once people kill, if you kill early, then, you're just doing the deer camp thing. So for me, it's like hanging out with buddies, watching movies, playing cards. Johnny's got the hot tub out at his camp, so hitting the hot tub, and just hanging out with dudes in camp. So for me, it's more of like I think one of the, I've involved my son in it in the last couple of years because, one thing I've thought about is we don't really have like a great initiation rite like in male culture in America these days. We used to have it. Native American tribes had it. The military kind of has it. But basically, I think, when a kid kills a deer in deer camp, then it's time to start treating them like a man. And so that's what it's becoming more and more about for me is focusing on, like when my son and I go up to Canada for bear hunting, or he's out here helping me with the cabin now. It's more about passing on traditions and doing things that you love with people that you love. That's the heart of deer camp. And that's why it can happen in Atlanta at Lee Ellis's house, or it can happen in Canada, in Quebec, outside of a lake where no one speaks English. Or it can happen at Johnny's cabin in PA. So for me, about deer, that's the constituent elements of deer camp is like men, friends, passing on tradition and hunting and enjoying the meat and the meal together. Like that's the biggest thing for deer camp about me probably is like it's an incomplete deer camp if you don't have like a big meal where everyone gets together and sits around the table and tells stories and lies for an hour or two about the deer they've killed. That to me that's deer camp.
Man, you hit it right. The nail on the head with that one. I agree 100%. I mean, you said when you're out there in PA, you sit the same spot for 10 days straight. Is that?
I have. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, generally I will. So 3 or 4 years ago, I was hunting a big chocolate antlered like 145. That I was just waiting for him to come by, and I passed on a lot of good deer. And then a buddy ended up going with me. And on like the 9th day in the spot, he had an opportunity and he blew it. But we sat for 9 days there. But generally, like PA mountain, Western mountains, I'll sit because their areas are so large and so vast that they have to cover. And when they're in the seeking and chasing phase, and you still don't have a ton of does in the heat, they're putting on a lot of miles. Like I've looked at a lot of the color GPS study data. It's not uncommon for a deer to put on 7-10 miles in a day right before the peak of the does come into heat. Now, when the peak of the does come into heat, then it's a different style. And I will jump spots. But when it's like that October 31st until like November 4th, 5th, 6th, where you only have some does in heat, then those bucks have a really large, area that they're covering. And if you've got a good funnel spot, or you've got a good spot where there's a scrape and doe bedding, and the does are being left alone, like I'll hit that spot every day. And I've had great success with that. Like 2 years ago, I think I killed like a 12-year-old
Oh,
But
wow.
that was awesome. Just an amazing deer. And that spot I lucked into, but I had hunted a spot before that for 5 or 6 days, I think.
Okay. So I'm seeing the cabin in the background. It looks how old is the cabin?
My dad built this cabin he started this cabin in 1984.
Okay.
So my father died when I was 5, and that was in 88. I was almost 6. And when he found out he had cancer, he got to work on this cabin right away because his dream was to build a cabin with his sons. So I think his plan was to build it with us when we were older, but when he found out he had this cancer and it wasn't looking good, he started doing it right away. So I think he started in 84, and he had 99% of it, or not 99, probably 90% of it done by 87 or maybe early 88. And then he died in November of 88. So, I mean, he did this like old school, like, logs on a Kenworth, using horses to move them. Like this chinking behind me was done by him.
Okay.
It's really old school. I mean, we've modernized it a bit. Will you do this video, or is this going to be just audio?
Yeah, this will be video.
Okay, I listen to your podcast, but the ones that I've listened to, the Bo and Johnny ones, they were both audio on like Apple. So, but I mean, it's pretty modern otherwise.
Okay.
Like we did the whole kitchen and living room is over there, and but it's this old chinking that lasts forever. Like I think these cabin logs will be here long after I'm dead.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was when I'm looking at it there. I'm like, man, that could be like an 1800s cabin
Yeah,
sitting behind you there. That's really
yeah.
cool. Yeah, we actually just to get to that, we just started. You're going to be, I think, episode 2 or 3 of the actual video podcast. So,
Oh, okay.
that's why. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're evolving over here at the Deer Camp Podcast. Well, we're trying to, anyways.
Well, that's good.
We'll,
No, I really enjoyed your one with Johnny. Johnny's hilarious.
Oh man, dude, I love that guy. I've talked to him a few different times, but man, he's so full of life.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends. You very rarely run into genuinely good people, and I knew from the moment I met him that he was a genuinely good person, and he's really interested in people's success. And in interviewing him for a podcast is the closest you're going to get to talking to a deer. So that's Johnny in a nutshell.
I was listening to him on Bo's podcast there when he was talking about you guys cold plunging up there in Quebec. I was pretty much rolling on the floor laughing about
Yeah,
that.
he's hilarious.
Oh, he's so cool. Yeah. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit here and just I don't want to beat you up too much about Spartan Forge. I just just a few things. Spartan Forge for beginners, man. Tell me about what if you got somebody new getting into hunting and they're looking at all these different mapping aspects. What's Spartan Forge got over everybody else?
I would say the first thing is like a lot of hunting applications kind of just focus on weather and mapping. So when you get on those, you get some weather, some mapping, some property ownership. And then, from there, it's just what other mapping layers can get thrown in there, what other bells and whistles that really don't contribute to the hunt. Like you'll see like there's layers in there where it's like Southwestern Texas Boone and Crockett records. And I'm like, what? I don't care about this. Like this has no application to me. And I don't even think the people who live in Southwest Texas care. Like you can look that stuff up online. So with Spartan Forge, what I was trying to do was myself, like having an engineering mindset. I really look at hunting like calculus. Like I'm doing variable analysis, and I'm trying to account for every variable. So for me, at one point, probably like 2015 or 2014, I was using like a pilot's application for wind and historical wind and wind gusting. I was using dark sky. I was using AccuWeather. I was doing hour by hour wind. I was doing historical wind plotting, historical weather lookup. I was using Onyx. I was using this one called what was it called? It had a really nice topo maps. I don't remember what it's called. I think it was called like GPS Navigator or something, but it had great topo maps. And then I was using, let's see what else. I was looking up records. I was looking up concentrations of people proximal to public land. I was looking up fawning rates and when the fawns were dropping. And looking up the hunt doe to buck ratios, and all of this stuff that I was trying to put together. And my thought was, initially, I just wanted to get into the machine learning side of the house. And I did machine learning while I was in the military, and or like what people might call artificial intelligence, but more like machine learning. And I wanted to focus on just deer data and mapping data optimized. And I actually went and talked to all of like the big mapping companies out there. And I was like, hey, I just want to build machine learning models, and then you guys can do cool stuff with them. I'll lease them to you or license them to you. And they all wanted to like pay me like pennies, like money. I could have gotten, twice the amount of money being a bonehead contractor for the government. So I finally had like the revelation that, building maps is not necessarily the hard part, because the mapping data is out there and it's everywhere. You just got to find it or contract it and buy it. So I thought, I'm going to build the mapping app and then start introducing this other stuff. So like in the past few years, we've got Blue Force Tracker, where you can, drop pins and share them with buddies automatically. If they're in the same geometry, you can share pictures and notes. It'll go to location sharing soon. We were trying to do it earlier this year, but we ended up doing this massive mapping update where we, most of the Eastern Seaboard now is something like 85 or 90% covered in high resolution imagery. But then it has stuff under the Intel tab, like historical weather, or you can use the journal to look up the weather on a particular date. So if you have like a trail camera that was soaking in an area last year, and this happens to me, like you'll drop a trail camera, you'll think of nothing of it, or you'll forget, and you'll go back the next year, or this happens to Johnny all the time. You'll go back the next year, then there's some shooter that was going through there like 3 or 4 days. So you want to look up what the weather was, or the weather direction on those days, or what the cloud cover was. You can use our journal feature to go back in time and pull that historical weather. Or there's a LiDAR layer. There's a topo layer with configurable topo lines. There's the 3D mode. There's preset maps. And then there's the journaling feature, which I think a lot of prolific hunters, or guys that I know who are super successful, like Johnny, like Lee, like Drew, like Andy May, they have journal entries out the wazoo. Like every time they hunt, they're making a journal entry. And then we have Cyber Scout, which is kind of like a large language model that you can use to do research, and it kind of gives you no BS answer. So if you've never like focused on primitive archery, or last year I used it to brain tan a doe, it will teach you those things. So it's about building an application that's more about than just focusing on weather and the day of the hunt. It's more focused on cataloging information, doing that variable analysis, putting it all together, centralizing it, and giving you something that's kind of like an all-in-one, so that you don't have to pay for, like I said, I was 5, 6, 7 apps in order to do this stuff, and do it at a price that's very competitive, and is 80-90% of it's built in the US instead of my competition, where 80-90% of it's built overseas in Pakistan or China or wherever else, and give back to the veteran community while we're at it. So that's kind of Spartan Forge to me in a nutshell.
All right. What's the most underused feature on Spartan Forge?
Definitely probably the journal feature, using it to look up historical weather, or the polar plot. And the polar plot gives you, like, if you look up an area, if you go to the Intel tab, put your crosshairs somewhere, go to the Intel tab, it'll tell you what the majority of the wind is throughout the year. So if you're scouting in March, April, May, and you want to know, understand that, give the context of the area in November when you're going to be there, October when you're going to be there, you have that historical weather and historical wind feature, which is super, like, I call it walking them back. But basically, like, when the season's over and I'm not really worried about going into bedding areas, or I'm not really worried about being aggressive with my scouting, it's important to have that historical wind, historical weather foundation, so you can look at how bucks might be using. If you find a nice scrape line, again, in the GPS data I see, a lot of times bucks won't work the scrape line or walk the scrape line. They'll just walk downwind of it quickly and just check in. So then knowing that historical wind, so you're like, oh, it's a northwest wind. So now I want to look at what's southeast of this scrape line to see if I see like a faint trail or something, and mark that in the app or whatever. I would say that historical piece is the most is prominently, probably, certainly the most underused part. And the second most underused part is probably Cyber Scout, which is our large language model, which is, similar to like a Chat GPT or a Grok. It's our own, that we train with, hundreds and hundreds of retrieval documents, and it's just trained on hunting and firearms and survival and outdoor, pursuits, fishing. And it just doesn't give you, like, even Grok will give you some PC gobbledygook or bullcrap. And we really shy away from all that and make sure we're just focusing on giving the user what they want. So if you want to, rebuild your rifle, or you want to do a flintlock, or you want to, know what MOA is, or you want to know how to do intersection or resection, or, advanced mapping stuff, or terrain recon, or whatever it is, you have a place to go to and learn those things on your own, and get yourself to a level where you can ask educated questions if you get yourself in front of an expert.
Hey guys, Al here, Vitalize Seed. I hope you all are doing well. So we got a lot of new things happening at Vitalize this year, and I wanted to highlight some of those. First off, we got a brand new website. We just added a chat feature to that website, so you can get your answers to your questions in real time or as fast as possible. Those actually come directly to us, so we can answer those questions, as well as has some auto answer features for those frequently asked questions. So trying to further increase the customer service that we offer. Number two is we are offering bundles now. So we got a lot of questions about people trying to piecemeal things together. So we took the guesswork out of it for you. You want a fertility bundle? Add that to your cart, and it gives you all of our natural fertility products in one place. We also are adding bulk pricing. So been asked about this in the past, and we've done some, kind of one-off things. But for those people who are buying, 5, 10, 15 acres, depending on the product, we're going to be offering some bulk pricing options for that. So right now we got that up on Nitro Boost. We also are going to have that up for the Clover, Chicory, and Oats offering, and might expand that to other offerings as well. Other things are new products. So we got our annual Clover. That's a fantastic product for frost seeding, and also for this early spring, especially for those who still want to plant Nitro Boost. They want to get that annual Clover established. You could go in and drill your Nitro Boost right through it, broadcast through it, mow it off, spray it off, etc. We got our Premium Clover Plus. I'm using that on all my logging trails. That's a fantastic product. I'm also using that often with our Clover, Chicory, and Oats mix. So I might use Clover, Chicory, Oats in the first year on my logging trails, like I did last fall. Let those oats come in, they'll die off, and then I can frost seed my premium Clover and Chicory over top of those trails now. So those are areas where I want a perennial crop growing. So I'm using that mix. And then we added our brassica mix as well. We, of course, have our seed feed and seed armor. Those are selling fantastic, and various other products, guys. So please check us out at vitalizeseed.com. We sure do appreciate you, and we're looking forward to a fantastic 2025.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the right now. I actually got it pulled up, and I got my farm's actually on the updated I'm losing my train of thought, the UAV, and I am blown away at the clarity of when you like zoom in. I mean, I can zoom in, and I'm seeing pieces of farm equipment here that I forgot were even in the woods.
Yeah.
So
there should be a Rolodex at the bottom as well. There's probably historical imagery in your area, depending on where you're at. So you can go back in time and look at it over the years. So if you want to focus on like where there might be like thermal cover trees, or where there's trees that hold their foliage in the winter, or see how areas have been changed, or pop into LiDAR and look at, where there might be old logging roads or logging trails and stuff like that. Again, it allows you to just put all that together and focus your time when you actually have to burn boot leather out in the field.
Okay. Explain LiDAR just a little bit more, as I'm not a smart man when it comes to this stuff at all.
Oh, I'm not either. I just play one on TV.
Good for you. Stayed at Holiday Express last night.
Yeah. LiDAR is like, so you've heard of radar.
Yep.
And radar stands for radio detection and ranging. So cop shoots a laser at you. It gets a return. It can measure the shift in the pulse. It can measure the speed and velocity of the pulse. And then it can make a determination of how fast you're traveling. LiDAR is very similar in that it shoots pulses of light. The light get measured by a machine, and then it allows the machine to, you can go through foliage and you can go through houses because the wavelength is so short that it penetrates. So that LiDAR is useful. People use it for logging operations. They use it for minerals. They use it for mining operations. They use it for construction and architecture. And we just took that same data. And I think we maybe still the only ones who are doing it in the mobile, but for sure we're the only ones with like 80 or 85% coverage over the US of high resolution. But we do it in the desktop app as well, which I think there's a couple now that have put it in their desktop app. But it's again, just you can see through the foliage, you can see the ground, you can see where there's no logging trails. In fact, the property right across the road from me, my grandfather built the roads over there, and you can see an old trail of theirs that they built through the woods in the 30s. That's where they improved the ground and made it traversable for a vehicle. And that's 90 years old. So of course, deer reclaim those spots, right? So when the foliage starts to grow in, it's just the deer just know this is an area that's easy to run. So you'll see scrapes along those types of trails or rubs or whatever it is. And a lot of times, especially in dense, thick foliage, you would never know that that's there unless you had a day to walk 10,000 acres. So it's just a way of kind of isolating and figuring those things out and using that LiDAR technology to not replace scouting, but to make your scouting more efficient.
Awesome, man. That actually made sense to me. So yeah, you can find like old logging roads and go look at them, and I love it. I love it. Anything major happening with Spartan Forge this year? Updates?
Well,
anything you can talk about?
Yeah, we just did a major update where, whitetail states, most of them now, with the exception of I think Wisconsin, are 80% or better on high resolution imagery coverage. We're the only app that's offering that high resolution imagery coverage, but especially for like you in Michigan, you're pretty much everywhere. Most of the whitetail states now are covered, 80, 90%. Some of them are 100% coverage. And then we added a ton of historical, and then we also prioritized buying leaf off imagery. So there's a ton of leaf off imagery throughout the US now as well. And that's helpful. The leaf off imagery is good to find types of cover and dense and that type of thing. But then the leaf off imagery is obviously useful when you're looking for thermal coverage or you want to see down to the ground, or like you said, you can see farm implements or tractors and stuff on the ground. You can do the same thing, throughout the US. So if you're doing an out of state hunt, or like myself, where I do a few states where I'm out of state hunting, you can really learn a lot before you ever put your boots in the ground. And like I said before, it's not meant to replace the scouting. It's meant to make it more optimized and more focused when you're out there in the field. So we just did that one. And then we've got a couple of minor UI UX updates that will drop here in the next month, which are just like making the app a little smoother, the bottom sheet stuff, pin drop, that type of thing will get a little bit better. And then that's pretty much the mobile app that we'll go into the season with. And then we're working on like CarPlay and a couple of other updates to our LiDAR feature and that type of stuff that we'll probably be releasing throughout the season.
Okay, that's cool. There's nothing better than being able to have that on CarPlay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get out of the talking about that. Let's get back to the talking about hunting. That's my favorite.
That's my part. That's what I like too.
All right, perfect. What is your most memorable hunt? And it doesn't have to be a kill. Just when I ask you, like, if you think real quick, what's your most memorable hunt that you've ever been on? What would you think that would be?
Well, definitely it would probably be the first time I loosed an arrow on a buck, which is not far from here. It's about 30 miles away or 25 miles away. Just like the absolute adrenaline drop that I got. Had no idea what I was doing. I've been bow hunting for a couple of weeks. I had just gotten good enough with the bow where I felt like I would be lethal in the field. And I had like 5 bucks come in. It was like maybe mid-September out here in North Dakota. And I was like, man, this is easy. This is really easy, which it was not after that. But I loosed an arrow and just totally missed the buck and just had this massive adrenaline drop. And the only other place that I've really kind of gotten that adrenaline drop or that, heightened sense of awareness has been in the military. So that kind of gave me some closure as far as like getting out of the military, knowing that I'll have something that will give me kind of the same amount of meaning outside of family and God, like something that will, motivate me to do something and learn. And the military was doing that for me at the time. And then hunting kind of did that for me getting out. And then as far as like another like successful hunt, it was 2 years ago. I think I killed that 12-year-old mountain buck that everybody in that area had been hunting for many years. Like he had a nickname. I think they called him like the king or the monarch or something. That I just lucked my way out. I had a spot I was going into and the wind was wrong. So I decided to just go to a point and walk in slowly. And there was the buck. I could hear the buck grunting above me. He was chasing a small doe, and he was trying to keep her in like a cut, like a seep, and where it was wet, and obviously trying to mate her. And she ran right past me, and I thought, oh man, did they bust me? That buck was still in that like ditch, kind of confused or wondering what was going on, because I was crawling up the mountain. Like when I saw them, they were still like 100 yards away. So I started crawling on all fours to get up into place. And I shot that buck. And then that night it was Bo Martonic, his dad Joe, their brother Kurt, who's an employee for Spartan Forge, Johnny, I think Pete, Johnny's photographer, was there, Gunner. And we just had and my son, and we just had back straps that night and stayed up and told deer stories until 1 a.m. And then and the story's not done, at about 1:10 or 1:15 a.m., Johnny looked at me and I was like, hey, are you getting up in the morning? Are you hunting in the morning? And he's like, yeah, I think so. Like, and I'm kind of looking at him like, this guy's not getting up in the morning. Like we've been slinging beers and eating and all that stuff. But sure enough, at like 4:45, we both woke up and saw each other in the kitchen and got our coffee. And we went out that morning, and this is probably the better part of the hunt, but you got to tell the story together. So I told Johnny, I was like, well, I killed last night, so I'll film for you today. Like Pete can take the day off, or it might've been another filmer at that time. Maybe it wasn't Pete, but I said, I'll film for you. Like, let's go out together. So we found a spot that he liked. We went out there, and when we got in the deer woods, I told him, I was like, dude, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like your inner caveman, or I don't know if you've experienced this or not. But I said, like, we're going to kill today. Like, I can feel it. Like the deer are here. We hadn't seen a thing. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because they're running and like maybe your like inner reptile can smell the estrus. I don't know what it is. But I looked at him and said, we're killing this morning. And I don't ever say that, because most times I'm prepping myself to just relax in the woods, no expectation, so I don't get let down, experience the outdoors, and just enjoy. Like success to me is a well-sat hunt where I'm focused and I'm paying attention, and not, distracting myself on the phone or thinking about work or thinking about family. I'm just out there kind of decompressing by myself, because for me, I'm like, a lot of people are surprised because I say I'm an introvert. And they're like, well, you seem like an extrovert. And it's like, well, I recharge alone. So like, even if I can carry a conversation on, or if somebody thinks that I'm really outgoing or whatever, I much prefer being alone. So that's a successful hunt to me. But so that morning I said to John, I'm like, dude, I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. You're killing this morning. And sure enough, at like 9 a.m., we started seeing running activity, and I was filming for him. And he took a shot, and this is on YouTube. People can find it on Johnny's YouTube. He took a shot, and it looked high, and the buck really, really dropped. And I went back on my phone, and I was reviewing it, and he's like, that buck's not dead. I'm not going to find that buck. And I was like, well, we got to get down and look. I was reviewing the video. And I said, John, I think you might have hit high lung here. He's like, no, Bill. Like I've done it. Like, no, I don't think so. Blah, 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 blah. Well, we get down, we find some blood. I start tracking with him, and that buck was like 60 or 70 yards away, piled up on the ground. And we just went nuts. Like it was just amazing. So then we went back, and my wife at the time was working and had like a dinner that night with her friends. And I told her I would be back for that, so she could go to that dinner. I'd stay with the kids. And it was the hardest thing in the world for me not to have my buck and his buck up on a buck pole together at deer camp and sit out there and have Gunner cook us back straps. Or we like to slice up deer heart, with like onions.
My favorite.
And garlic. Like that's one of our things that we like to do. So it was so hard. And I was like, dude, I'm not even going to call my wife. I'm just going to hit the road. And he's like, no, Bill, you got to stay. And I'm like, dude, my wife like puts up with me being gone weeks out of the year. Like the deer are on the ground. We've got our success. Like to stay any longer would be selfish. So I'm just going to hit the road. And that was like the hardest drive away. Like I was just praying my truck wouldn't start, and I had a valid reason to stay, but truck started and we got home that afternoon. And that's probably my favorite hunting story, period. If I had to choose one, I know I told two, but if I had to choose one, that would be the one. Like that 24-hour period was pretty special.
Okay, that's a great story, man. I feel like I was there. What a great experience to be able to experience with. So, do you enjoy hunting with people, or do you enjoy more like being by yourself?
I enjoy being by myself, unless it's with my
Okay.
son or with like Johnny. Johnny's the only person in I trust my son. He hasn't learned the ins and outs of hunting yet. Johnny's the only person where I feel like if I go in the woods with him, I'm not at a disadvantage. Because
Okay.
like most times you go in the woods with someone, it's a second person, there's more smell, they step on sticks, you're trying to tell them not to talk, they're distracted, whatever. Like 95% of people, even good hunters that I know are like that. They want to talk, blah, blah, blah. Johnny and I are just able to focus. Like I'm on the grunt call or he's on the grunt call or one of us is filming and like we're paying attention and we're both in the zone. So with the exception of Johnny or like making memories with family, my predilection is to be alone. I like
Okay.
being alone.
How old is your son?
16.
16. Okay, so he's just kind of getting started in his hunting journey.
Yeah, I mean, he comes to deer camp and he sits with me and stuff like that. He hasn't gone out and done it on his own yet. Like he likes deer camp. He likes being in deer camp with guys. He just hasn't gotten the bug yet. I plan on getting him the bug here pretty soon, passing it along. But he hasn't like gotten the bug. But he shows up to deer camp. He helps out. He cooks in the kitchen. He cleans up for us and watches movies and BS's with us. So he's a part of deer camp. He just hasn't done the hunting aspect yet. But we're gonna change that this year.
Okay.
And so, yeah, to answer your question, I prefer to be alone 9 times out of 10. Unless you're doing like a deer drive or something like that, then that's fun. But still, again, I would rather stalk deer alone than drive. I would rather be on I just like being alone. I like decompressing and focusing. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever done like jujitsu or if you've ever done like a hobby that you really love. But when you're really allowed to focus on that exclusively, no matter what's going on in the world, everything else kind of just washes away.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like, rolling in jujitsu, or you just have to focus on the one task. And it's the same with hunting or working on the application or whatever else it might be. Like, I really enjoy that kind of alone time.
All right. What's your preferred method of hunting? Your preferred style? I mean, are you a spot and stalk, tree stand? Like if you were to pick your perfect day, what would be that hunting situation?
If I were to pick okay, so I have to qualify this.
Okay.
If you told me how to be successful, I would be on a tree stand. That would be my preferred method with a bow. I mean, obviously a rifle would be better, but I would rather do it with a bow.
Yep.
If I'm really what I really enjoy or what I've been enjoying for the past 3 years or so, I used to do primitive archery. And I think it was like 2017 or 2016. I missed like 186, 187 inch, I think was what the guy told me. He got hit with a car, so he actually got measured. But I missed him at like 15 yards with a stick and string, like a primitive bow. And I have not picked up a primitive bow since that day. I've been on, because he bounded off to like 40 yards and sat there for probably 10 or 15 minutes. And I could have taken 15 other shots with a compound bow. So I gave up on primitive bow archery that day and have not touched a primitive bow since then. They're hanging on the wall in my office right now, the ones I used to use. So now it's compound. So, but as far as like fun or like experience in the woods, or if I'm in a new area, I like to go really slow, spot and stalk with a bow. If it's looking for rutting activity, and just walking and watching the woods and paying attention And like, you know, I might cover 60 yards in an hour, hour and a half. I'll have an idea of where I want to go or where I think there might be does. And then I'll just walk in as slow as possible. I might hit the grunt tube some. I really enjoy that. And I've found some success doing that in the last few years. I still think I'm more successful on a tree stand, but it's not as enjoyable because I like, you know, walking and interacting and the spot and stock aspect and trying to get in there. And even when you don't get in there, like the other thing that's fun about it too is I'll get distracted like a kid. Like I'll have no intent of killing a doe, or if I have a doe tag, I'll burn it. But I just like to see how close I can get. You know, last year here in North Dakota, there was and I have this on video. I've never done anything with it, but I found a doe group of like 4 or 5 does, and I thought, oh man, a buck's got to come by here. And I stalked it within like 25 yards of them and set up next to a tree and sat there forever, and no buck showed up, like till sundown. But it was a lot of fun to test myself. Like, do I have the wind right? Am I watching all of the eyeballs? Have I identified all the deer? Because a lot of times you might only pick out 2 or 3 doe, and it'll turn out that there's 6 or 7 in the area, and you just can't see the other ones. So I like that test. That test to me is a lot of fun, like getting in close with a bow and getting set up and being right on top of them. So that's probably the most enjoyable aspect for me is compound bow hunting and doing like the slow spot and stock.
Okay. What's your bow setup?
What's that?
What is your bow setup?
I've got a Hoyt. I run a dialed archery sight. I guess that's about as special as it gets. I've got a fall away rest. I'm shooting like 465 grains, and I use VPA broadheads, which are awesome. I love them just because, you know, I get pass through. You can shoot through a bone with those things. Like, you know, you can aim shoulder blade with those things and pass right through, and you can resharpen them, and they're really great. And then, you know, some type of Luminoc, and yeah, that's about it. I think I pull like 65 pounds, something like that.
Okay. All right. Give me another hunting story, man. Let's get a Bill Thompson hunting story.
Oh, let's think here for a second. Bill Thompson hunting story. Let's see here. I would say I'm trying to think of, okay, so I guess my first elk hunt, I went with my buddy Drew Carroll from Seek One. We went out to Montana. And I shouldn't say my first. I've killed a cow elk in the past, but it was with a rifle at like 250 yards, and it really wasn't much of a hunt. Like we knew where the elk were showing up every day. I was young. We got within range, dropped one at like 250 yards, and that was it. But my first bow elk hunt, and this is on the YouTubes. You can look up like Seek One elk hunt. I think it came out 2 years ago. Have you seen this video? Do you know what I'm about to tell you?
No, I haven't seen this.
Okay, well, you should go watch it. It's my first elk hunt, and we got on a really good bull. I would say he was, I don't know, 270 inches, something like that, maybe just under 300 or something like that. And we had been hunting a lot, and I again got that feeling. I told Drew and the filmer Thomas Clements, I said, we're gonna kill an elk today. Like I can feel it, like it's in my bones. And we got on some elk, and it was public land, and we got in, and right as we were moving in, it started to hail, and then the hail turned to rain, and then we got in, like we were trying to loop around these elk to get downwind of them, and right as the rain stopped, like a rainbow came out, and it was like raining off in the distance, and there was lightning striking. There's a rainbow in the air, and it felt really surreal. Like it felt fake. It felt like I was in a simulation. And we got pinned down by a group of smaller elk, and you can see this in the video. I think they were 10 yards away from us. Like we got down next to some logs. The elk come in. They move right. It was a bunch of young bulls. They move right by us. We get down to the elk, and I got within, I think it was 45 yards or something like that, or 50 yards. I think it's 45. And just first elk hunt, don't like with whitetail. I really understand their physiology. I know when they're alert. I know, if their tail's doing something or they're looking around or, they obviously know you're around. I didn't know a ton of this with elk. Hit the cow call. The elk stopped. I drew back. And as soon as I released, the elk was at like 45, 50 yards. Like I said, he took a massive step forward and ended up hitting on the back hock. And it took off. And it was just, I should have made sure he was staying still. I should have made sure he was, there are a million things that I can do and critique myself like I can with many whitetail hunts. I got a ton of hate online for it. Like, oh, you should have waited to take the shot. But that's the online experience.
Yeah.
Those people will shit talk anybody. And then that elk ended up getting killed 2 days later in an alfalfa field that they were going to by a guy that was hunting an outfitter. They were off of an outfit land. And so I was glad that the elk got killed because we spent 2 days burning boot leather, didn't find an ounce of blood, but we looked everywhere we could. And then we ended up getting up to this outfitter's land, and I called him and said, hey, I shot an elk. If you guys find a dead elk, it's probably mine. Like if I hit like the artery that goes back to the leg or something like that. Or if I hit gut and I didn't think I did. So I described the bull, and then he called me like 2 days later and said, hey, a guy just shot one with a wound in his ass. Or not right in its ass, but like,
Yep.
right above its back leg. And so I was glad that the elk got harvested. Of course, I was upset that I made a bad shot. I took that really hard for like a week. Like I was a week of no sleep after that. And then it gets worse. The next day, after we found out that the elk had been harvested, I wasn't going to hunt again until there was either a dead elk or we saw it on the hoof and it was fine, right? Like to me, it was like a burn tag. But then once someone else had harvested it, I said, well, I've got an elk tag now. So we went out that last day and I had a shot on like what you'd call like a raghorn, like 170, 200 inch elk. I didn't take the shot. And then we ended up getting within about 15 yards of a massive bedded elk that was with a ton of cows. And I think I made a mistake there too. I can't remember what the mistake was, but I did something. Maybe the wind shifted. Anyway, it caught our scent and took off. And then Drew was going to go for a bull in that same area later. And I was behind another tree, and I think I made some movement and scared his bull off. So I just totally screwed that. I just screwed the pooch on that hunt, and didn't sleep for a week afterwards. And I'll try to go elk hunting again next year, but I'm not going to go this year.
Okay. You taking a year off.
Yeah.
Whitetail hunting wise, what's your favorite terrain feature to hunt? I know you do the mountains and
yeah. So it's really not about terrain feature necessarily. Like if I just had to like, I like being near doe bedding, or I like being in areas where the deer have to cross through. And I won't say like a saddle because it's almost never a saddle.
Yep.
But if like there's a ridge that connects two huge ranges, I don't need any deer sign. I just know at some point, especially when you're hunting up in the big woods, that a buck's going to run through there to get from one doe area to the other. As long as it's not like peak rut, as long as it's like, maybe 5% of the does are in estrus. I know bucks will travel that ridge because it connects the hill systems. So I've got spots like that I really like. As far as like big woods, it would be spots like that. Then when you get into like Southern Maryland or Southern Virginia, and we start getting closer to the rut, I just like to know where doe are bedded, which I've got, I don't know, 200 pins where I know does bed a lot. And I like to find scrapes that are downwind of those and hunt off of those scrapes. Scrape hunting is probably what I focus on most.
Okay. Do you do any kind of mock scrapes or anything, or are you just hunting natural scrapes?
I've done them, but I've done them and I've had success with them. But I mostly do scrapes that are mostly established. I'll pee in them when I'm changing cameras and stuff like that. But if an area, the last time I did a mock scrape it was an area that should have had a scrape. It was just there was a swamp and then a river, and there was one piece of dry ground that connected the two, and bucks were going through there all the time. So I set up a mock scrape, and it ended up becoming a scrape, and it's still a scrape now. That I set up and hunted off of and killed a buck over. But that's the last one that I can think of. Generally, I'm just looking for, scrapes. And I really like the larger ones, or what people call community scrapes. And then if they're near doe bedding, then I get downwind of those. And I think to myself, if I were a buck that didn't want to use the scrape, but I just wanted to wind it, what's the predominant wind? Are there any faint trails that will allow me to wind the scrape without it ever being seen? And on those trails, you won't see as many bucks as you will if you were sitting on the scrape. Like on the scrape, you'll see bucks coming in, working it. But when you're talking about cruising mature bucks that are just looking for a doe that's in heat or in estrus, they will generally just scent check those scrapes. So it's a lonely hunt, but when you do see a buck, it will be the buck you want to kill.
Okay. All right. Well, we've been at this for, I don't know, looks like about an hour. I appreciate your time, Bill, coming on today. This was really a great podcast, a lot of fun. Where can anybody find you if they want to know what your adventures are up to?
Spartan.forge on Instagram is our main Instagram. I do all of the, people message or have suggestions or complaints or just want to see what's going on. I respond there, and then I have my own Instagram at Bill Thompson SFT, I think it is. And I answer all those too. And I love talking to people and hearing them use the app. And I love it when people, are successful and they believe the app contributed to that. I love those stories. And I like, I spend about an hour and a half every morning doing my own customer service, because kind of like, not only like the CEO is one title, but I think the more important title is product owner. Like the product is mine. Like everything that's in there is how I thought up it should be, which isn't always right. But I like having a direct contact on the pulse of what people are saying or feeling. And, we're getting a ton of downloads this year. A ton of people are signing up. I'm really happy about that. I really like the state of the app and where it's at today. And there's just a couple little things that we need to get ready for the season. So they can find me there. And then we're on Facebook as well. And on our website, there's a support email. They can email us there. And if they want to talk to me, all they got to say is this message is for Bill, and they'll get me.
Awesome. Well, Bill, again, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have to do it again after you kill something giant. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. Hopefully I do. I don't want to let you down.
No, there's no letting me down. That's for sure.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks again.